Would you be willing to put your hand on this Bible and swear?
Oh my gosh, you actually have a Bible?
I have 2 Bibles.
Are you being serious?
I am being serious.
Okay.
I'm swearing. Are you going to sue Dogpack?
MrBeast just responded to a bunch of allegations made against him and his company. In this video, I'm going to use my skills as a body language analyst to try and uncover the truth as to what's really going on here. This interview is nearly 3 hours long, so I've condensed it into the most pressing allegations. So, let's take a look.
Would you be willing to put your hand on this Bible and swear?
Oh my gosh, you actually have a Bible?
I have 2 Bibles.
Are you being serious?
I am being serious.
Okay.
I'm swearing. We're both from the South. This will be an honest video.
Oh, your laptop's blocking it.
Oh, whoops. This will be an honest video. You're a man from North Carolina. I'm from Virginia.
The Bible Belt.
The Bible Belt.
Yep.
Exactly.
I know what this means.
This means it's legit.
Yes. Okay.
There we go.
I was not expecting that. Okay.
This is like legal now.
It is. I could go to jail.
So firstly, Jimmy's posture is super relaxed here, which is very interesting. He's leaning back in his chair with his knee on the table, which suggests a calm demeanor. This is because when the brain detects a stressor, which generates stress, it typically positions itself in a way that assists a quick response should it encounter a stressor. We also see his hands resting in a neutral position, showing no signs of muscle tension. From what we see here, he's confident going into this interview.
First biggest question for me and a lot of people that I've spoken to over the last couple months is like, why were you so silent? Especially off the bat. Like, you did respond to the Ava Tyson stuff immediately, but like, you know, right after that, a bunch of other stuff came out, and Dawson's video, his first video, gained a bunch of traction. What was your reasoning for being so silent immediately?
No, that's a great question to kick it off on. You actually kind of laid out the timeline there. The Ava stuff came out, and I put out that tweet. We hired the investigators to go look into it, and part of that investigation is they recommended that I not talk about drama or really do anything online because it might influence, you know, witnesses or any people they might interview or ex-employees. So it's a little unfortunate because I told them, okay, I'll wait till the investigation is over. And I believe that was literally like a week before the Dogpack video came out. And then truthfully, just in transparency, I've never done one of these like big investigations before. And in my head, it was going to last like 2 or 3 weeks. It ended up taking a couple months. Apparently combing through all the documents and doing all the interviews and everything just took way longer than I thought, because I've never had to bring in a top tier law firm and a former federal prosecutor and let them, do this really big thing. And so that kind of concluded a couple weeks ago when I put out the tweet of the follow-up.
Yeah.
Like, that was the day I got the conclusion of it. And I was like, okay, in transparency, I'll throw this out. So up until that point, it was, I had told Quinn Emanuel that, to protect the integrity, I wouldn't do anything or engage in any of this drama.
His posture remains relaxed here, which follows his baseline. In nonverbal analysis, we look for significant shifts in baseline behavior to allow us to determine why those shifts took place. He does, however, express 2 distancing behaviors, in succession with his eyes right at the end there, when he says that he promised not to talk about the situation until the investigation had concluded. These behaviors occur when the brain tries to distract itself from something that causes it stress. Being effectively slandered on a daily basis, but not being able to respond for such a long amount of time naturally frustrates him, causing the stress.
And then after that, yeah, like you said, a lot of stuff had come out between when the investigation started and when it ended, and I was just kind of like, whoa, I don't really know how to like hit this stuff. And I made like a little response video, but it's just kind of not my style, where I just kind of like put a lot of the information that I assume we're going to talk about here out, and it just felt weird. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I've never been in a situation where people have thrown this much stuff at me, and I definitely could have handled it better. Like, I probably should have, like, the second I could have talked, like, I don't remember the exact date, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we put that report out, probably should have done something like this right then. If I could go back in time, I would. And yeah, that's kind of like the brain dump, and then here I am.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, you answered it towards the end, but like, do you regret that, obviously?
Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would do what we're doing here, because I assume this is like the correct format. It's going to be a little bit more free-flowing and natural. And I wouldn't have wasted so much time like trying to do a response. It's just not my thing. I like so much better, or I'm assuming, I mean, we just started, but I think I'm going to like so much better being asked the questions and answer it, instead of just like sitting in a chair like this, answering it. It just feels a little more natural.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, that definitely, that does line up obviously with what's happened, and it makes sense. And I definitely, I feel like before talking to you, I definitely would imagine that you would regret have not making a response early.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like that, because that you could have just immediately, if there is information to debunk Dogpack's his first video off the bat.
Yeah, which obviously had so much disinformation in it. If anyone saw Sagi's video or any of the newer videos now coming out, like you would
we'll
see
get to
so
that
much.
too, yeah,
so much of it. So it's unfortunate that it happened on the back end of when I said I would not talk about or address drama and things. And
Jimmy expresses multiple pacifying behaviors here. As the defense mechanism gets triggered, adrenaline is released into the bloodstream via the adrenal glands, causing the heart rate to become elevated and the muscles to tense up to become stronger and more resistant to damage. The elevated heart rate and tension causes the nerve endings to become compressed and tingly, creating a strong urge to itch. This is a pacifying behavior. It's when the brain attempts to neutralize that tingling sensation by touching it. It's why we see him constantly touching his face and pulling up his jumper.
The big one that, videos with tens of millions of views collectively, claiming I called a guy Delaware because he committed a crime in Delaware. That is not true. His name was just Delaware. I didn't, call him Delaware to make fun of him or anything. And, I'm sure you're going to ask about it later, but there's literally, he was in a video before I hired him working at Best Buy wearing a name tag that said Delaware. And that was public information. And anyone could have saw that. Even during when that was getting shared a lot a couple months ago, I even sent that to a couple of YouTubers. I was like, hey, just so you know, I didn't call him Delaware because of this messed up thing. That was just his name and here's proof. And I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of the creators, but one of them literally just said to me well, it's not really cool to like you or defend you right now, so I don't really care whether or not it's true, or I don't want to take the video down because then people are gonna think I'm controlled opposition. I was like, whoa. And then also that same photo, are you gonna throw some things on the screen for them?
Definitely.
Yeah, so throw it on the screen. That same photo, right after that second Dogpack video, started to get traction on Reddit and saying hey, this is a lie. Jimmy didn't call him Delaware to make fun of him, committing a crime in Delaware. That's just his name. And it got taken down by the mods on r/YouTube drama. And that's when I realized anytime there's a post proving that I'm not evil, they were taking it down. So it was a little unfortunate too, because I wasn't saying anything. And then on Reddit, anytime something was proving that I wasn't evil or, contrarian to what everyone was saying, they were suppressing it or censoring it, not trying to sound extreme.
So you're saying it's like a echo chamber, which Reddit r/YouTube drama is.
Yeah, I know, but it's unfortunate when there's a post with 10,000 upvotes claiming something false about you, and then then a couple people are like, wait, that's not true, here's proof. And then they delete it every time. So then everyone's like, okay, well then that must be true, because they're also deleting the comments on that post that prove it's not. So then then it's just now, again, I'm not trying to sound extreme, but it's just you're censoring information. And then that paired with other YouTubers, when I would call them and share it with them, they'd just be like, well, I don't want to be a MrBeast glazer, so I don't really... They wouldn't say it this direct, but they would just essentially say, I don't really care if it's true or not. I'm just going to say what other people say, sorry.
So Jimmy gives off a bunch more pacifying behaviors when discussing the suppression of truth by the Reddit drama community. He constantly touches his face and brushes his leg, which are all extremely common behaviors associated with high stress levels. Not only was he powerless, but the people who were defending him were also being silenced. And it's only really fair that both sides of the argument are allowed to be heard so that people can make an informed decision.
People allege that you hired a registered sex offender named Delaware. There's a big whole conspiracy with it. Why did you hire Delaware, and were you aware that he was a sex offender before you hired him? By the way, to preface this question, this is something that I think a lot of people probably feel is really important. It is. So that in mind, that this is one of the most important things to me. I would love to hear the full truth response from you in regard to this.
Yeah, and I'm excited to put it out there because I think what people are envisioning is completely different than what actually happened. Yes, I did hire him, but for the context around it, I hired him when I was 19, so I was a teenager, and this is kind of leans a little bit into what we were talking before. This is back when it was just a couple of my friends from high school, my mom. My videos were getting bigger. I needed more help, and so I walked in because I'm dumb. I probably should have gone on some site and hired people who had production experience, but instead I walked into my local Best Buy and I just hired multiple people. Obviously, when I was a teenager, I didn't know what a background check was. And I just hired a couple people there that wanted to help me make videos. One of them was the person named Delaware. And no, I did not know he was a registered sex offender. There's a rumor that's gone around that said that he sat me and my mom down and told us. Obviously, I don't remember that happening. And when I read that tweet, the first thing I did was I called my mom and I was like, hey, this is like 7 or 8 years ago. Just put this in context. 7 or 8 years ago, not indicative of my company today, but I was like, did this happen? Because someone's claiming this happened. My mom said, I would have literally quit or honestly probably shut the business down before I ever let my teenage son hire a registered sex offender knowingly, which I have a very protective mom. So, I mean, even if you don't believe me, you should at least believe that. I feel like it's not absurd to believe that my mom wouldn't have knowingly let her teenage son hire a registered sex offender. Like, that just doesn't even, like, in what world does that even make sense?
Yeah.
It's like that just, I mean, that's just not even rooted in reality. So, but yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing that happened.
I find it extremely strange that Jimmy didn't at least do a simple Google search of his potential employee. You don't need to do a full background check to find out this information. But what I find even more strange is that this guy stayed at the company for years, from 2017 until 2020. I find it extremely hard to believe that Jimmy remained ignorant for the entire time. As for his non-verbals, after he says that he didn't know, he coughs briefly and tenses his mouth. This is known as the Glober sensation, and is triggered by elevated stress levels, causing the muscles around the throat to tense up. It doesn't mean that he's lying necessarily, but it does show that saying it causes him extreme stress. We can also see him performing what's called self-touch, which is a well-documented way people regulate their stress levels and reduce their physiological arousal.
Not that this, I take accountability. Yes, if I could go back in time, I would tell teenage me, hey, you're supposed to do background checks. 19-year-old me, he stared at retention charts all day. He obsessed over YouTube videos. He didn't know anything about running a business. Like, I can't fully put myself in the mind of me 7 years ago, but I'm sure teenage me also thought, like, hey, Best Buy is worth tens of billions of dollars in a big corporation. Like, they also didn't do background checks. And, like, I probably thought, like, oh, I'm hiring from this big business. It's probably fine. You know what I mean? Or maybe I didn't put much thought into it because I was just making videos. But regardless, we do background checks now, and we do these things. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's just an unfortunate thing. But I just for context, though, just to give to a lot of people listening, like, or watching, I called after that stuff came out too, because I was just curious. I called, like, I don't know the exact number, maybe like 24 YouTubers, and I asked them, like, do you guys do background checks? And I think like a dozen of those YouTubers have like more than 10 employees, and literally only 2 of the like 24 YouTubers I called do them. Like 6 of them were like, I don't even know how to do a background check. You know what I mean? And they all had employees. So like, I do, not that I'm not trying to deflect anything or whatever. I'm just trying to give context. Like, it's like, it is a little much to just think that 19-year-old me was just supposed to know that and have this knowledge, and it's unfortunate. And like I said,
yeah.
The point is, this wasn't Jimmy 7 years ago. This was Jimmy in 2020 when he had 30 million subscribers. His nonverbals are all over the place here, showing multiple instances of the Glober sensation and pacifying behaviors, all in an attempt to calm himself down. Clearly, this line of questioning is what causes him the most stress, and I would say that there is far more to this than meets the eye here. MrBeast's own employee and brother of Delaware claims that Jimmy was fully aware of his status as a sex offender. There are multiple conflicting accounts here, and I find it hard to believe that the information didn't eventually reach Jimmy through the grapevine, especially since there were only a handful of employees at the time.
Are you going to sue Dogpack?
Well, there's tons of examples of him intentionally manipulating things to not be true and posting it online. Tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies, and caused a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. And don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why. And so, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably gonna have to. I mean, it's just. I mean, what do you do if someone's just spreading misinformation about you and just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing you so much revenue? It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies. You know what I mean? It's just sad. It's not a thing I take joy in. But
Right.
yeah.
When he gets asked if he's going to sue Dogpack, he instantly does a distancing behavior and looks to the floor, whilst also pacifying by touching his face. This again shows a spike in his stress levels, and it seems to match his prior behaviors, meaning that it's likely genuine. He takes no joy from this, but he has to do it to clear his name. MrBeast's reputation has been destroyed, and I think that it will never fully recover, unfortunately.
There's an interview with a former employee and contestant named Jake Weddle in which he alleges inhumane treatment on set, even war crimes. Use the term of phrase war crimes. How do you respond to these allegations, and do you plan on putting procedures in place to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah. Glad I can talk about this one. So I think I should set the floor because maybe not everyone here fully even knows what the challenge was or anything. So yeah, I think it would make sense to. So for the Weddle video, Jake Weddle was the person who competed in one of my videos. The video was we built a room in our studio, and then the challenge was every day you live in this room, you win $10,000. And then it was like kind of like a white padded room. There's like a pool table, a bed in there, bunch of other items, blah blah. And let me just gather my thoughts on this one. How do I want to say? I think the best way to talk about this is to also talk about how we did similar videos with other people, because one of the things is like multiple people can do the same thing and experience it differently. That's what's a little tricky about these like contestant-based videos. I can never know 100% how something's going to affect someone, right? So
Jimmy struggles to come up with a response, and this is very visible in his body language. He expresses a number of pacifying behaviors here before pausing to gather his thoughts. He then steeples his fingers briefly before continuing to pacify. This is called feign confidence, and is used by the brain to provide a sense of reassurance. Steepled fingers is a power pose, which is a behavior people express to appear larger and more dominant. However, this lasts for such a short amount of time, indicating that it's feigned. He does this as holding a power pose, even when lacking confidence, actually reduces the levels of cortisol in the bloodstream and increases testosterone levels, helping calm him down. However, he can't maintain it as he's not actually in a state of confidence.
But Bailey and Susie, on day 20 of 100 Day Trap Together, I offered to turn the lights off for part of their prize pool, and they said no. And like the lights wasn't, I mean, I'm sure it was difficult, but it wasn't like that big of a difficulty for them. And so it's like something for them that's not that big of a difficulty for other people can be, challenging and hard. And like what I'm trying to say is you never know how someone's going to react to something, right? It's impossible to fully predict. And so it's a voluntary challenge. You can leave at any point.
Paid exponential amounts of money. Yeah. And, after all that stuff came out and he sort of made the claims of how he was mistreated, et cetera, you reached out to him after the fact as well?
Yeah. I mean, now that I didn't want to bring that kind of stuff up. But yeah, also off camera, after he made that video, I reached out and was like, hey, man, like, obviously we weren't trying to cause you any mental stress with that video or anything, and is there any way I can help? And I ended up, he seemed like he really needed some financial help, so I ended up sending him $50,000 completely off camera or anything. I mean, he talked about it publicly so people know, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure he was good.
Jimmy continues to pacify here. Throughout this entire interview, he's been experiencing stress, which is natural given the nature of the interview. We only see substantial spikes when it comes to the hiring of the sex offender. Everything else has seemingly been within his baseline range. I do think he could have done more for Jake to make him feel comfortable in leaving the challenge. However, he's an adult, he made the decision to be there and could have left at any time. He was also getting paid an insane amount of money for it.
There was litigation found against you surrounding Beast Games, your show on Amazon, in regard to unsafe workplace conditions, and a bunch of talk of, files and videos and images and everything being sent to documentaries and all this shit coming out in regard to the Beast Game show on Amazon. Yeah. What is the litigation that found
against you? You know how litigation is. Obviously, I'm not allowed to talk about it, which is a little... There's a lot of things I want to say here, so this is good. Trying to think specifically on the lawsuit that... So for context that people have...
Jimmy gives off an extreme amount of nonverbal cues here that are absolutely fascinating. Firstly, when pressed on the lawsuit, he instantly changes his seat position, moving his proxemics to get away from the interviewer. He simultaneously pacifies by rubbing his leg, and also we see him tense up his fist. These are all signs of high stress and high levels of muscle tension. He then instantly performs the self-hug posture to try and calm himself down. We know that this is one of, if not the most impactful allegations that Jimmy is dealing with, based on how strong of a reaction he gives off here.
5 anonymous Beast Game employees, or not employees, 5 anonymous Beast Game contestants submitted a lawsuit, and they sent it to the press, but conveniently all the actual claims are redacted, blacked out, so you can't actually see it. And I'm not allowed to disclose what's behind those black lines, but Beast Games, we had 1,000 people. We were doing big stuff, and just like with my normal videos, I'm not trying to say everything went great. One thing that happened when we were filming one part of Beast Games is, you remember CrowdStrike? That was pretty brutal. We had the most contestants of any game show in history together. That was weirdly, God hates me, during the CrowdStrike accident. And so as we're eliminating hundreds of people and trying to get them home, airports all across America are down, hotel room keys aren't working, and that created a lot of confusion, and that caused a lot of problems in our systems, and that was pretty brutal. And they're I'm not trying to just disavow everything, you know what I mean?
Jimmy continues to express high stress behaviors in response to the allegation. I think most of Jimmy's stress is generated from the frustration of not being able to respond. People are allowed to throw countless accusations at him, but he isn't allowed to defend himself for legal reasons. I can see how that would drive someone mad, given that your reputation is actively being destroyed.
Now on to Lunchley.
Oh, gosh.
Right. So, friend of the show, Rosanna Pansino, happened to get a moldy Lunchley, and a couple other creators got moldy Lunchleys, and then that began the claims sprouted out of that.
Yep.
That Lunchley had been recalled due to those problems, due to the mold problems.
Yes.
Moldy cheese. How do you plead?
Yes. How do I plead? What am I on trial? Well, there was no recall. I mean, that's been said, which again, it's so annoying. It's the disinformation, man, because that makes it seem like there's an actual serious problem. Oh, we're recalling Lunchleys, and there's a sign that I think Logan even did a video, if you want to throw up, where he went to the store and that just wasn't real. That someone put on a door that said Lunchley has been recalled when the shelves are empty by the FDA, which was just a made up thing. On the mold thing, here's the thing: we every single Lunchley with cheese meat is USDA inspected. There is no mold when it leaves our factory. We have the highest QC standards imaginable. What do we have? Why would we ship that out? That doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? And we obviously have the best experts in the world. I mean, even once these things come out, we brought even more. They're pouring up and down the lines, making sure everything's good. It's just, the thing is, here's a context a lot of people leave out. Look at, I don't want to name specific brands but take a specific brand that comes into your mind when you think of something like Lunchley, something that's very similar, specific brand, I don't know, other brands, competitors, and Google their name and put the word mold behind it. You'll see thousands upon thousands of examples. And that, I think, is a key context a lot of people leave out in this, because they're acting like this is just the thing with us. Once it leaves your factory, a truck that's delivering it could technically take a sharp turn and a box fall and puncture the seal. Or honestly, even something as dumb as when it's put on the shelves at the store, I can't stop someone from walking to Walmart and grabbing a Lunchley, going to the potato chip aisle, putting it there, and then a day later an employee going, that doesn't belong there, and put it back. And obviously they shouldn't do that. They should throw it away. Of
course.
But so there's no mold when it leaves our factories, because that's just stupid. Why would we ever let that happen? But after that point, there are variables that we just can't control. And that's why every single product in that section, Google their name, put mold behind it. It just occasionally happens.
Although Jimmy continues to express stress-related nonverbal cues, it's significantly below what he was expressing in the previous question, highlighting just how much the litigation is impacting him. On reflection of this entire interview, we can clearly identify 2 key lines of questioning that cause him the most stress. These are the Delaware allegations and the litigation from Beast Games. Now, if I were a detective, I would be heavily diverting resources into investigating those areas, as they are where Jimmy feels the most vulnerable. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that he's lying, or that the allegations carry weight, simply that they are the most distressing to Jimmy. What did you think of this video? Let me know in the comment section below, and thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.